Forget everything you think you know about Florida real estate trends. By 2030, the very fabric of our coastal property values will be unrecognizable, all thanks to one groundbreaking factor: nuclear power. We're talking about a dramatic shift in demand and value that will create instant equity for those who understand where to look. This isn't just about energy. It's about a complete economic overhaul. Right now, while most investors are still obsessing over beachfront condos and tax-free living, a silent transformation is underway across Florida's coastline. Nuclear power plants are being greenlighted, expanded, and modernized at a pace not seen in decades. And with them comes something far more valuable than clean energy: an unprecedented influx of high-paying jobs, infrastructure upgrades, and economic stability that will fundamentally reshape where people want to live and invest. According to the U.S. Nuclear Industry Council, for every 10 direct nuclear jobs created, between 18 and 35 additional positions emerge in supporting industries. That's not just employment growth, that's a complete market reconfiguration. In this breakdown, we're revealing exactly how nuclear power will create new investment frontiers in Florida's coastal markets, where the smart money is already positioning, and which communities are about to experience explosive appreciation. Subscribe to Housing Intel for data-driven real estate intelligence that gives you the edge before the crowd catches on. The looming energy revolution. Florida is going nuclear, and it's happening faster than most realize. In 2024, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission authorized Florida Power and Light's Turkey Point nuclear power plant to operate for another 20 years, extending its licenses through 2052 and 2053. That's not just an extension. That's a multi-billion-dollar commitment to long-term infrastructure, workforce expansion, and regional economic dominance. But Turkey Point is just the beginning. Florida lawmakers are now weighing advanced nuclear innovation to power the state's explosive population growth. The Florida Public Service Commission delivered feasibility reports on advanced nuclear power directly to the governor and legislature in 2025, signaling that new reactor technologies could be on the horizon within the next 5 to 10 years. Why nuclear now? The answer is threefold: energy demand, grid stability, and climate targets. Florida's population is projected to surge past 25 million by 2030, and the existing grid infrastructure is already straining under summer cooling loads. Solar and wind can't provide the baseload reliability needed for a state this size. Nuclear can. It's the only carbon-free energy source capable of delivering 24/7 power at the scale Florida requires. And unlike fossil fuels, nuclear plants operate for 60 to 80 years, making them the ultimate long-term investment in regional stability. Initial public perception of nuclear power often leans cautious, driven by outdated fears from decades past. But the economic realities are undeniable. Large-scale infrastructure projects like nuclear facilities inject billions into local economies and create jobs that last for generations. The job boom's ripple effect. Let's talk numbers, because this is where the real estate impact becomes impossible to ignore. A single nuclear power plant employs between 500 and 800 highly skilled workers during normal operations. But construction and expansion phases? That number explodes. During the build-out of new reactors or major upgrades, workforce demand can surge to 3,000 to 5,000 workers over a 5 to 7 year period. These aren't minimum wage positions. We're talking about nuclear engineers earning $125,000 annually, reactor operators pulling in $90,000 to $110,000, health physics technicians at $80,000 to $95,000, and security personnel making $70,000 to $85,000. According to industry data, The average salary across all nuclear plant jobs is nearly $90,000 per year, roughly double the median household income in many Florida counties. Now here's where it gets explosive for real estate. The multiplier effect. The U.S. Nuclear Industry Council confirms that every 10 direct jobs at a nuclear facility generate between 18 and 35 indirect and induced jobs in the surrounding economy. That means ancillary businesses, services, retail, healthcare, education, construction, and hospitality all experience massive growth. In St. Lucie County alone, the existing St. Lucie Nuclear Plant pumps $630 million into the regional economy annually and supports over 6,000 total jobs when you include the ripple effect. That's for a plant that's been operating for decades. Imagine the impact of new facilities or major expansions in communities that haven't experienced this kind of economic injection before. These workers don't just earn high salaries, they spend them locally. They buy homes, enroll kids in schools, dine out, shop, and demand quality services. The direct impact on local housing demand is immediate and sustained. And because nuclear jobs are stable, long-term positions with excellent benefits, these aren't transient workers. They're putting down roots, which means consistent upward pressure on property values for decades. Coastal shifts, winners and losers. So which coastal communities are positioned to win big, and which might get left behind? Let's start with the obvious winners. Areas surrounding existing nuclear sites that are expanding or receiving license extensions are ground zero for appreciation. Turkey Point, located south of Miami near Homestead and Florida City, is already seeing this dynamic play out. Homestead's median home price has climbed steadily, and as Turkey Point's extended operations through the 2050s become fully operational with expanded workforce needs, properties within a 15 to 25-mile radius will experience sustained demand. Florida City, historically a more affordable coastal-adjacent market, is suddenly looking like a value play for investors who understand the nuclear factor. Then there's St. Lucie County on the Treasure Coast. The St. Lucie Nuclear Plant is one of Florida's largest employers, and the surrounding communities of Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, and Jensen Beach have already benefited from decades of stable, high-income residents. But here's the kicker. If Florida greenlights new advanced reactor projects, smaller coastal towns currently considered dormant or undervalued could transform overnight. Think about communities like Crystal River on the Nature Coast. Crystal River previously had a nuclear plant that was decommissioned, but the infrastructure, workforce familiarity, and regulatory environment remain. If new advanced nuclear projects target this region, property values in Crystal River, Homosassa, and surrounding Gulf Coast areas could appreciate 20 to 40% within 3 to 5 years. These are markets where you can still find waterfront or near coastal homes for under $300,000. That window won't last. The losers? Communities that resist infrastructure development or fail to adapt to the demographic shift. Towns that don't invest in upgraded schools, roads, and services will struggle to attract and retain the high-income nuclear workforce. Additionally, some previously quiet coastal towns may experience displacement as property values rise, and long-time residents on fixed incomes get priced out. This isn't unique to nuclear development. It's the reality of any major economic transformation. The key for investors is identifying which markets are positioned to handle growth sustainably versus those that will fracture under pressure. Beyond the plant, infrastructure, and lifestyle, nuclear power doesn't just bring jobs, it brings an entire ecosystem of infrastructure upgrades and quality-of-life improvements that make markets more attractive long-term. When a nuclear facility commits to a region for 60 to 80 years, local and state governments respond with major investments. Roads get widened and repaved to handle increased traffic. Schools receive funding boosts to accommodate growing student populations. Healthcare facilities expand to serve the influx of families. Retail and dining options multiply to meet demand. This isn't speculative. It's documented in every region where nuclear plants have established long-term operations. The demographic profile of nuclear workers is also crucial for real estate investors to understand. These are highly educated, often dual-income households with significant disposable income. They prioritize safety, good schools, recreational amenities, and community engagement. They're not looking for starter homes or short-term rentals. They want single-family residences with yards, access to quality public or private schools, proximity to outdoor activities like boating and fishing, and low crime rates. This is the nuclear family demographic in every sense, and they're willing to pay a premium for quality of life. Communities that cater to these preferences will see property values appreciate faster and more sustainably than those that don't. Long-term sustainability is another factor that separates nuclear-driven markets from speculative bubbles. Nuclear facilities are required by federal law to invest heavily in community safety, environmental monitoring, and emergency preparedness. This creates a culture of institutional stability and transparency that reassures residents and investors alike. Unlike industries that can pack up and leave when economics shift, nuclear plants are generational commitments. That permanence translates directly into real estate confidence, investing in tomorrow's Florida. So how do you actually capitalize on this trend before it becomes mainstream knowledge? First, identify key zones. Use a radius of 15 to 30 miles around existing and potential nuclear sites as your initial search area. Look for communities with existing infrastructure, reasonable affordability relative to surrounding markets, and signs of local government investment in growth. Homestead, Florida City, Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, and Crystal River are prime examples. Second, conduct deep market research. Pull data on median home prices, inventory levels, days on market, and year-over-year appreciation rates. Compare these metrics to state and national averages. Markets that are currently underperforming or flat but sit within nuclear impact zones are your sweet spots. You're looking for the disconnect between current valuations and future demand. Third, timing matters. The best entry point is before major construction announcements or workforce expansions become public. Monitor Nuclear Regulatory Commission filings, Florida Public Service Commission reports, and utility company press releases. When you see license extensions, new reactor approvals, or feasibility studies advancing, that's your signal. Historical case studies validate this strategy. When the Vogtle nuclear expansion was announced in Georgia, property values in surrounding counties appreciated 15 to 30% over a 5-year period as the construction workforce flooded in. Even after construction phases ended, values remained elevated because of the permanent operational workforce and infrastructure improvements. In South Carolina, the VC Summer Nuclear Project, despite ultimately being canceled, still drove significant appreciation during its active construction years. Florida's projects have the advantage of being extensions and modernizations of proven facilities, reducing the risk of cancellation. The future outlook for Florida as an energy-independent, economically resilient state is incredibly bullish. As other states struggle with grid instability, rolling blackouts, and soaring electricity costs, Florida's commitment to nuclear power positions it as a safe haven for both residents and businesses. That reputation will only amplify coastal property demand in nuclear-adjacent markets. Energy independence isn't just a political talking point. It's an economic moat that makes long-term investment in Florida real estate more attractive than ever. The message is crystal clear. Florida's nuclear power expansion isn't a distant possibility. It's happening right now, and the real estate implications are already taking shape. From Turkey Point's extended operations through the 2050s to advanced nuclear feasibility studies being delivered to state leadership, the infrastructure is being laid for a complete economic transformation. Thousands of high-paying, specialized jobs are flooding into coastal markets that were previously stagnant or undervalued. The multiplier effect is creating tens of thousands of additional positions in supporting industries. Infrastructure improvements are following the money, and quality of life in nuclear-adjacent communities is rising dramatically. For investors who understand where to look, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to capture appreciation before the mainstream catches on. Coastal properties within 15 to 30 miles of nuclear sites are positioned for sustained demand and value growth that will dwarf traditional Florida markets. Knowledge is your competitive advantage in a transforming market. So if this analysis opened your eyes to a strategy you hadn't considered, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Housing Intel for weekly data-driven real estate intelligence that cuts through the noise and positions you ahead of the crowd. And drop a comment below. Which Florida coastal market do you think has the most upside from nuclear expansion? We read every single one. We'll see you in the next breakdown. Because sometimes knowing where to buy before everyone else is the best investment decision you'll ever make.